All right, we march on. Let's start with international organizations. The Alliance of Nations. The Alliance of Nations is an international organization formed by most of the countries on Earth. The idea became a reality after the War of Revolutions nearly 100 years ago. The tragic loss of life and a world mostly destroyed led many countries to work together to form a diplomatic structure. All of this was in the hopes of preventing another world war. Many experts agree that the Alliance of Nations did reduce the number of conventional wars, but a significant divide still exists inside the organization. This divide is caused by the two superpowers trying to take advantage of the nature of the AN to gain regional diplomatic or even military advantages. Nonetheless, the Alliance of Nations remains as a beacon of humanity. It gives aid to desperate regions and helps out destabilized countries with neutral security missions. OMEC. The Organization for Merkopan Economic Development is an intergovernmental economic organization with 12 member countries, founded in 1921 to stimulate economic progress and world trade. It is a forum of countries describing themselves as committed to prosperity, providing a platform to compare policy experiences, seeking answers to problems, identifying good practices, and coordinating international policies of its members. OMEC uses its wealth of information on a broad range of topics to help governments foster prosperity and fight poverty through economic growth and financial stability. The structure is based on continued monitoring of events in member countries as well as outside the member area and includes regular projections of short and medium-term economic developments. The WHR, the Watchtower of Human Rights, is an intergovernmental human rights organization made up of roughly 1,400 staff members around the globe. Established in 1918, Watchtowers of Human Rights is known for fact-finding, impartial reporting, use of media, and targeted advocacy. Often in partnership with local human rights groups, each year, WHR publishes more than 40 reports and briefings on human rights conditions in some 26 countries, creating coverage in local and international media. With the leverage this brings, WHR meets with governments, the Alliance of Nations, regional groups like the Arcasian Security Organization, and the United Peoples Pact to press for changes in policy and practices that promote human rights and justice around the world. The ATO, the Arcasian Treaty Organization, is an intergovernmental military alliance between 14 countries, primarily led by Arcasia. The alliance aims to bring all its members together in united economic and defensive framework against the CSP. With ATO's strategic military alliance consisting of countries with capitalist economic structures, its aim is to counter the influence of United Kontana around the globe and protect Merkopa from the expansion of socialism. Recently, the ATO has become increasingly focused on increasing the nuclear protection, as the new military weapon has advanced enough to become part of warfare. This article doesn't need to be there. A CSP. The Kontanan Security Pact is an intergovernmental military alliance between 9 countries. Led by United Kontana, this alliance creates an integrated defense strategy and military cohesion to defend against the ATO. The CSP, at its core, is a strategic military alliance that consists mostly of countries that have planned economies and that trade resources with United Kontana. The goal of the alliance is to counter the influence of capitalism by Arcasia and to protect the continent of Kontana. The CSP has in the past decades moved to expand their influence in Merkopa and is focused on using allies like Sordland to face the ATO. Okay, let's talk about the government. These are governmental... we'll start here. The National Business Council is an official government structure that includes most of the leading business leaders of Swordland. They are participating in a cooperation with the government on improving economic prospects. Many details, including state projects, incentives, taxes, unemployment, and the future of the country are discussed here. It is led by Mikhail Avon, representing the private sector, and Simon Hall, representing the state sector. This council gathers when deemed necessary by the majority of its members, of the 2 leaders. What? Okay, Mikhail and our friend Simon. And by friend, I mean he just happens to be there. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of Sordland is the highest legal body for constitutional and judicial review. It examines the constitutionality in respect of both form and substance of laws, decrees having the force of law, and the rules of procedure of the Grand National Assembly. If necessary, it also functions as the Supreme Criminal Court to hear any cases raised about the President of Sordland, members of the Cabinet, or presidents and members of the High Courts. The justices of the Supreme Court may hold their office during behavior. The Supreme Court has the right to review enactments both before and after review, and it can invalidate whole laws or governmental decrees and prevent their application in future cases. The Supreme Court also functions as the second legislative body when a proposal to change the Constitution of Sordland passes the Grand National Assembly of Sordland, giving them the final vote on constitutional changes. It is currently led by Chief Justice Orso Hawker, who was elected with a majority of 7-4 in 1937. The Grand National Assembly of Sordland, usually referred to as the Assembly, is the unicameral Swordish legislature. It is the sole body given the legislative prerogatives by the Swordish Constitution. It was founded in Whole Sword on September 9, 1923, in the midst of the September Revolution. The Parliament was fundamental in the efforts of President Arthur S. Vichy. See, they changed the name of this because we read before that it was Artur Vichy. Anyway, and his colleagues to found a new state out of the remnants of the Kingdom of Sordland. It is currently led by the Speaker of the Assembly, Gloria Torre, who also represents the Conservatives within the United Sordland Party. We just did that one. Central Bank of Sordland. The Central Bank of Sordland is a financial institution of Sordland tasked with regulating the macroeconomy by having control over policy instruments to use in achieving price stability for the Swordish wren. It holds a large sum of foreign money reserves and is a semi-independent organization located in both Lockhaven and Holsword. The current chairwoman of the Central Bank is Edith Agnock. In the last 8 years, the central bank has spent a lot of effort in curbing the effects of the damaging recession and has managed to stabilize the rate of economic loss to -2% of GDP. For her successful crisis management, Edith Agnock has been praised globally. Edith Agnock. So, yeah, maybe there are a few members, but we'll come back to those at some other point. Grand National, here we go. Swordish Armed Forces. The military forces of the Republic of Sordland, with its headquarters in Holsword, the SAF consists of the General Staff, the Land Forces, the Naval Forces, and the Air Forces. The current Chief of the General Staff and the Chief of the Armed Forces is General Vulcan Kruger. That guy. The pro-fascist guy. In wartime, the Chief of the General Staff may act as Commander-in-Chief on behalf of the President. Oh, really? That seems disastrous. The General Staff also holds the authority to reject a president's candidate for the position of Minister of Defense and may appoint its own candidate when they deem it necessary. The Swordish military perceives itself as guardian of soulism, the official ideology of the Second Republic of the era of the Republic of Sordland. The Swordish Armed Forces is the fifth largest standing military force in eastern Merkopa after the Rumburgian Armed Forces. Currently, the military is a conscripted force. Males serve in the military upon reaching the age of 18. That right there worries the hell out of me. That right there is an ingrained mechanism for a coup. That's not good. The police force. Did we do this last time? I think we did this one already. It's there if you did not watch that video. There you go. And the Gendarme. The Gendarme of the Republic of Sordland is an armed law enforcement organization which maintains security, safety, and public order in the rural regions of Sordland and executes the duties ascribed to it by other laws. The Gendarme General Command is subordinated to the Ministry of Defense. The Gendarme organization, which was established in 1899, has survived until today. After the Republic was proclaimed, the Gendarme stations began to serve people in the most remote parts of the country in addition to carrying out security and public order duties. During Sol's term as president, most people began to identify the Gendarme with the state itself. Not so good. Okay, let's go to the political parties. The Bludish Freedom Party was a Bludish political party in Sordland, which was banned from politics in 1933 for its alleged connections to the Bludish Freedom Front. The Pfjp was formed in 1924 as a political party representing the many Bludish people living in southern Sordland and campaigned heavily for minority rights. They were expected to be elected as the main opposition party in the 1927 elections, which was cancelled after General Lutheran executed a military coup and suspended the constitution. The 1933 Izam incident, which triggered the formation of the first Bludish resistance movement called the Bludish Freedom Front, inspired many Bludish people to join their ranks. Among them were ex-members of the Pfjp, which prompted attacks from the government. Following the terrorist attacks organized by the BFF, Tarquin Sol accused the BFP of supporting them and banned the party out of politics in 1933. Bludish representation has been absent from politics since then, until the founding of the Workers' Party of Bludia in 1948. Workers' Party of Bludia is a Bludish political party in Sordland, which garners most of its support from the Bergia region. Generally left-wing, the party places a strong emphasis on participatory democracy, unions, minority rights, and egalitarianism. The party brought great criticism for the usage of the Bludish name, Bludia, for the region of Bergia in its name. Aspiring to fundamentally challenge the existing Swordish-Bludish divide and other existing parameters in Swordish politics, the WPB was founded in 1948 as the continuation of the Bludish movement started by the Bludish Freedom Party. Despite their name, they claim to be a political party representing the whole of the region of Bergia and want to represent all of Sordland regardless of ethnic backgrounds, rejecting the label of Bludish nationalism. Some members of the USP have claimed that the WPB has direct ties with the Bludish Freedom Front, which was not proven and have been numerously denied by its members. In 1949, the party put forward its earlier chairman Mansoon Leek, who won 6% of the vote. Leek had then resigned from the party and ran as an independent to bypass the 10% election threshold. In 1953 elections, the party won 9% of the vote, barely losing the election this time, despite concerns that the departure of Leek may result in lower votes. The Communist Party of Sordland is a communist political party in Sordland. Yes. Yes, obviously. It was founded in 1950 with hopes to bring together the many separate left-wing organizations in Sordland under one flag. The party has positioned itself between millennialism and Volkslandian socialism. The party was established by a group of millennialist politicians, union leaders, and a number of activists who were previously persecuted during Tarquin Sol's term as a president. It is considered as a continuation of the political party with the same name that existed in the early years of the Swordish Republic, which was destroyed during the military coups and conflicts of the 20s. In the 1953 elections, the party won 8% of the vote, barely missing out on crossing the 10% election threshold in Sordland. The Pfjp, the People's Freedom and Justice Party, is a political party in Sordland which has promoted both liberalism and social democracy in the country. It is led by Franz Richter and currently is the main opposition in the Grand National Assembly of Sordland. Pfjp was established during the Lockhaven Congress in 1932 as a union of opposition groups against the government of Tarquin Sol. The party is regarded as a center-left political party with traditional ties to the middle and upper middle classes, such as white-collar workers, bureaucrats, academics, college students, left-leaning intellectuals, and labor unions. However, the distance between the party administration and many leftist grassroots, especially left-oriented Bludish voters, as well as Franz Richter's supporters for free market reforms, contributed to the party's shift away from the political left. They represent the reformist faction of the Grand National Assembly, advocating for a more democratic constitution. The party opposes the constitution written by Tarquin Sol and deems it undemocratic. They are seen as the alternate to the USP and have been a major force in Swordish politics since its first election. The Pfjp has been steadily increasing its popularity among the Swordish population, who are unhappy with its current situation. The NFP. The National Front Party is a nationalist ultra-conservative political party in Sordland, which currently is the second biggest opposition party in the Grand National Assembly of Sordland. It is led by Kisaro Kibner. The NFP was established in 1930 by a group of young nationalists, including Kisaro Kibner, in the city of Jen. The party mainly followed an ethnic nationalist political agenda with aggressive and threatening campaigns throughout the 30s, which made it to be perceived as an extremist party, but later moderated its views under the leadership of Kisaro Kibner, who took over the leadership in 1949 and worked towards making the party more approachable for a larger audience. In the 53 elections, NFP gained the best results in its history, becoming the third biggest party in Sordland. And the USP, the United Sordland Party, is a political party in Sordland. It is the oldest political party in the country and is currently acting as governing party. The USP describes itself as a modern democratic party, which is faithful to the founding principles and values of the Republic of Sordland. The party is cited as the founding party of a united Sordland. Its logo consists of the three arrows shining from a light bulb, which represent the foundational principles of soulism, republicanism, nationalism, and statism. It was founded by Tarquin Sol in 1929 following the end of the Swordish Civil War. It participated in the first elections after the war with no contest and was elected into government. It has been the leading party in Swordish politics since 1929 without any disruptions. In the 40s, the party slowly started to protest against Tarquin Sol's authoritarian policies and strayed from the Solist ideology. With the new reformist faction increasing their influence in the 40s, Wald Alfonso called for a congress and managed to win against Tarquin Sol, which made Sol resign from his position as chairman of the USP in 1946. Ewald Alfonso served as second chairman of the USP and was elected president in 1949. His term saw many changes to the USP, with many of the old leadership leaving or being evicted from the party. The Alfonso administration pushed for free market reforms, which resulted in the recession of 1951, not 1951, oh, maybe it is 1951, the recession of 51. This helped Anton Rayne rise up as a young new leader during the tumultuous period of the party with its lost identity. Now, these keep getting brought up, but maybe we haven't even actually looked at these people's profiles. I don't know that we've done that. Maybe we have, I don't know. I know that I've looked at a bunch of stuff on my own in between videos, but I don't remember. I really don't want to go through a character's episode, but maybe we need to. Anyway, the Blutish Freedom Front. The Blutish Freedom Front is a militant and political organization based in Blutish regions of Swordland and Wayland. Since the Izam incident in 1933, the BFF have been involved in an armed conflict with the Swordish state with an aim of achieving an independent Blutish state. They were created in protest against Swordland's oppression of the Blutish people and heavily promoted Blutish nationalism among the local community. The BFF was founded in the village of Zensihir in 1933 by a group of students who were part of the protest in Suzerain against the Sol Dam project and witnessed the shooting of Ashraf, more commonly referred to as the Izam incident. They initially called themselves the followers of Ashraf. They have been involved in many armed clashes with police and military forces of Sordland since their foundation. In 1935, led by Dulin Arj, they announced a Blutish uprising and started a full-scale insurgency in the region of Berja. Okay, he doesn't even have a picture. In 1944, their leader Arj was captured and imprisoned. The attacks have ceased in number in the following years, and after the departure of Sol in 1949, there's not been any single attack made by the organization. The Young Swords, a right-wing nationalist political organization with alleged connections to a number of armed attacks against the Swordish government. They are a youth organization that has close ties to the NFP and has been described as its militant wing. Its members deny its political nature and claim it only to be a cultural and education foundation. Established by Colonel General Lutheran in late 1927, it rose to prominence during the late Swordish Civil War when its members engaged in urban guerrilla warfare with left-wing activists and militants. Scholars have described it as a death squad, responsible for most of the violence and killings in this period. Kind of a big deal there. A staunchly pan-Swordish organization, in the early 1930s, the Young Swords have managed to extend their area of operation into Swordish-speaking post-revolution Vogsland. The organization has long been a prominent suspect in investigations into the Swordish deep state and is suspected of having had close dealings in the past with the police forces and judiciary branch of Swordland. The Red Youth. The Red Youth is a political organization with alleged connections to a number of insurgent attacks against the Swordish government. It was founded in 1923 by a group of revolutionaries who were inspired by the Communist Revolution in United Cantana and came together to promote millennialist ideas during the early days of the Republic. After the military coup in 1927, they continued for some time as an underground organization. Their members participated in the Swordish Civil War and continued their protests after the war. Throughout the 20s, they engaged in urban warfare with right-wing militants. Despite heavy crackdown of their forces during Tarquinsol's term as president, they managed to gather major support in many universities around Sordland. Red Youth members participated in the protests against the Arcasian Second Fleet anchoring in Swordland in the 1940s, and also played an active role in the workers' actions in the early 50s. The Labor Union of Sordland. The LUS is the oldest NGO of Sordland. Its current spokesperson is Katarina Horton. She's got a picture. The labor union claims to create better working conditions for all by organizing the workers inside companies and calling them to organize big strikes to disrupt service or production. Many seem to regard the labor union as a foreign-influenced NGO, but there hardly seems to exist any proof on the matter. In the past decades, it has been unexpectedly successful in increasing the wages of workers in several industries, but their greatest achievement was in the year 1914, when they led a large miners' strike in Estord and challenged the king. Needless to say, the royal guards tried to oppress the workers who they saw as revolutionaries. The royalists failed, and the king gave in to the advice of the economic advisor at the time, Baron Walt. Ever since that time, the LUS has been snatching minor victories against big companies. And the Magnus Cartus. Magnus Cartus is a young NGO formed in the Alfonso period. It aims to make Sordland a more democratic nation by introducing a new charter of rights. It supports humanistic ideals and organizes peaceful conferences and protests. Some of the donors are from Arcasia, but overall the founders are seen as peaceful citizens who have a good moral standard. In the last decade, the MC got attention through a whistleblower inside the USP who leaked damaging documents about Tarquin. This has caused many to treat them as traitors of the state. The founder denies allegations of being a traitor, explaining that being a vocal citizen fighting for the well-being of the country has nothing to do with betraying the nation. In fact, it is a form of patriotism, some might argue. Okay, that just leaves the big history deal, so we'll go through the timeline and all of this stuff that has been alluded to in other entries, finally understanding what's been going on in our country. So, I'll end this one here, and I'll see you then.